The leaders that I most admire are those who are able to speak with clarity and conviction. I wouldn't be alone in saying that. I think the world is crying out for leaders who embrace those characteristics.
Today we're bringing into the spotlight the Honourable Julie Bishop. One of the things I most admire about Julie is her ability to forge a path less travelled. She's a person of many firsts, our first female Foreign Minister, our first female Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party until her resignation in 2018, a trailblazer and a leader who leads with a strong sense of integrity and conviction. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Delighted to be with you.
I want to just cast back to your maiden speech. When I went back and had a good look at the things that you aspired to, your purpose, many of those things were realised over the course of your political career, and some of us would call that legacy and impact. I'd love to understand a little bit from you about where you got that sense of conviction.
I grew up on an apple and cherry orchard in the Adelaide Hills. My parents had a very strong work ethic and a strong sense of personal responsibility and self-reliance. There was a devastating bushfire that destroyed the property. I think it was about 20 years before the property turned a profit. So my parents made many sacrifices, and the whole family were expected to pull their weight and do their part. And I think that imbues in you a sense of responsibility as well as an extraordinarily focused work ethic. I had a sense of duty instilled into me that I had to contribute. And as I think I said in my maiden speech, I was actually brought up to believe that entering public office was one of the highest callings, and that if you got the opportunity to dedicate your energy and your effort and your ideas and your talents to the betterment of your community, your state, your country, then that was an opportunity worth taking, a contribution that you should make.
And in the work you're doing now, in some of the appointments and the boards you're sitting on, you are spanning across into the private sector.
Well, I had 20 years in private practice as a lawyer, and then 20 years in the public arena as a politician, and now I say I'm going to have a 20-year career in the private sector. I'm delighted to be the Chancellor of Australian National University, a significant institution and a leader in education, and it's a great honour to take on that role. I'm also on the advisory board of a number of companies that are working in really interesting areas in AI and technology, supply chain financing. I'm on the board of an international aid agency. I'm also involved in some not-for-profit work, and through that I have been appointed to a global advisory board, the Human Vaccines Project, which is the successor to the Human Genome Project and seeks to decode the human immune systems. I've always said that everybody should have at least 3 careers in them, so I've just completed my second, so I'm about to embark on my third.
Thinking about, your roles in the past have been on a global scale. Can you share with us some of those memorable insights and lessons that you learned?
I witnessed many examples of what I would call conditional versus unconditional leadership. Unconditional leadership is when the decisions that you make have an impact beyond your team or beyond your stakeholders and can affect entire communities, indeed across the planet. Conditional leadership is when the decision you make is entirely for the benefit of your team, your narrow interest group. And I'm hoping that we see a lot more unconditional leadership in the years to come.
I'm sure in your career you've had to make many tough decisions. What goes through your mind when you're balancing that decision-making element of your role?
There are many times when doing what is popular is not necessarily doing what is right. And I always believe that good policy is good politics. So there have been times when I think leaders have caved into pressure from, say, a social media campaign, which is a disastrous way to make decisions because social media campaigns are not representative of the population at large or the electorate at large. There is a tendency for populist decisions to be made, and we're seeing that around the world. They have short-term consequences, but long-term, it's far preferable for leaders to make decisions that will in fact leave a legacy, that will in fact have a long-term positive benefit.
The issue of legacy is becoming a lot louder. Leaders are talking about boards changing behaviour to focus more on the long term, operating in different ways. What are you seeing change around the conversation around legacy?
A leader's legacy is essentially a report card on their effectiveness as a leader. And the discussion is changing. Corporate boards are much more focused on environmental issues, social issues, governance issues. Goldman Sachs, who say they won't undertake an IPO unless the company board has females on the board. BlackRock, investors saying that they are not going to invest in projects that increase carbon emissions. Some of these decisions are reflecting that changing perspective on legacy. I think much of it is being driven by the younger generations too, the millennials, who are our future employees and customers and consumers and indeed leaders. They support companies that have that conscience, that sense of social responsibility.
One of the things that's facing a lot of leaders at the moment, both within government and corporate, is the decline in institutional trust. What role do you think leaders play, both in government and corporate, in regaining that trust?
Trust is absolutely vital for our democratic system, for our markets to operate, for our public and private sectors to be effective. It's at the heart of our democracy. It's absolutely essential that people have faith in companies, corporations, institutions. It's incumbent upon all leaders to lead by example and to operate within that ethical framework where those you are leading, or your consumers, your clients, your customers, will have faith in you.
The disruption that we face, the pace of change, it requires a leader to really have clarity and conviction. Where do you get that for yourself, that ability to have clarity and conviction?
Some of it is innate, some of it is learned, some of it is observed, and I think the leaders that I most admire are those who are able to speak with clarity and conviction. I wouldn't be alone in saying that. I think the world is crying out for leaders who embrace those characteristics.
How did you instill that sense of conviction and purpose in your people?
The most effective leadership I've seen is where the leader sets a strategy, goals, a direction, and then supports the team and gives them space to achieve those goals and head in that direction.
And what about your own experiences over the course of your career working with other leaders?
There are many different styles, many different characteristics, and I think good leaders have a combination of different perspectives and outlooks and experiences that they bring to the role. But at the end of the day, their legacy is how they created and supported a team, those who follow. And that's the key ingredient, I think, building trust and faith in a team and then giving that team the opportunity to perform. I've always tried to be authentic, true to myself. That doesn't always make you popular, doesn't always mean you're understood. It means that you can be subject to criticism. Every difficult decision you make, you have to weigh up that decision and the impact it will have on others. There are many times when the weight of decisions would have me pause and reflect on what I needed to draw upon to make the right decision, a decision that was right for individuals and families as well as Australia more generally.
And how did you tap into the courage that was required to see those things through?
We underestimate our capacity and ability to respond to really challenging circumstances. I'm often asked about the days and weeks after the downing of Malaysian Airlines MH17. An international response was required and we reacted. We needed the Australian government to essentially establish a pop-up embassy overnight, and I was absolutely focused on the task at hand so that the families could have closure. When you have that single-minded focus, it's amazing what you can actually achieve. That's where you find inordinate amounts of resilience and courage and determination and energy. It was one of the most extraordinary things I've witnessed.
With any of us in leadership roles, there's always challenging times that you have to see through. What's your advice for leaders who are seeing through some of those times?
Establish the facts and then calmly and rationally make your decisions based on the best evidence available to you at that time.
We work with a number of universities, and it's one of the institutions and industries that's undergoing significant disruption. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges of that sector?
Universities are subject to the same challenges as other sectors of the Australian economy: sustainable funding sources, the ability to attract high-quality students, the necessity to remain relevant in your teaching and research to your community, and also to ensure that your graduates are equipped with the skills and abilities that they will need. Technology alone is disrupting the way we live, the way we work, the way we travel, the way we engage. And the experts say that the greatest changes are yet to come with AI and robotics and automation and quantum computing. So we need our graduates to have the skills that will enable them to cope and succeed in such a world.
One of the things we work on with leaders is their ability to innovate. What's your view in terms of the job to be done for Australian leaders?
Our greatest asset as a nation is our people, their ability to innovate and their resourcefulness and their enterprising spirit. I think there's more that we can do to make the environment more conducive to innovation, commercialising ideas, taking some of our great ideas to the world. And we need to ensure that our government creates the environment that allows that sense of innovation and enterprise to thrive. We need to focus on ensuring our employees, our leaders have a greater focus on science, technology, engineering, maths. STEM subjects and STEM fields of endeavour are absolutely vital for our future.
It's wonderful to hear your story in your own words and be able to share some of the insights that you've gleaned over your first 2 careers, both of 20 years. And we look forward to watching from afar in terms of what this next 20-year career brings.
All I know is that it will be exciting, it will be challenging, and that's what makes me thrive.